discover your divine purpose. Transforming life in 40 days through faith and God's incredible plan. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the people of Israel found themselves wandering in the arid expanse known as the wilderness of sin. Just days prior, they had experienced the miraculous deliverance from the grip of Pharaoh, yet now the vibrant memories of Egyptian comforts, meat pots and the plentiful bread, haunted their weary hearts. The sun hung high, its oppressive rays beat down mercilessly upon their backs, and a murmur of discontent grew among the Israelites. Would that we had died in the land of Egypt, where we sat by the meat pots and ate bread to the full, they lamented, their voices trembling with desperation. Moses, their appointed leader, stood at the center of this turmoil, the weight of their burdens heavy upon his shoulders. Interrupted by anguished cries, he lifted his eyes toward the heavens, where the Almighty's voice reverberated through the air, cutting through their despair. "Go, speak to the children of Israel," the command resounded within him, echoing like thunderous waves upon his heart. Yet doubt crept in, gnawing at the very essence of their existence together. With the harsh dust of uncertainty filling their throats, they struggled to trust the God who had called them out of bondage. Just as the cries for nourishment intensified, the command of the Almighty pierced the tumultuous atmosphere. "Moses, strike the rock, and water shall come forth for the people." Gritting his teeth, Moses took his staff, symbol of divine authority, and approached the hard stone. As he struck it in obedience, a miracle unfolded before their eyes. A torrent of life-giving water erupted, cascading from within the rock. The Israelites stood in astonishment, yet instead of gratitude, doubt lingered still. "Is this truly how our God will provide for us?" they murmured, lingering in the shadows of their fears about what lay ahead. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's Word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's Word speaks to hearts across generations. Now, let's continue with what the Lord did next. Moses felt their doubts like daggers piercing through his spirit. The burdens he bore were heavy, but in that oppressive wilderness, a flicker of hope ignited within him. He recalled the promises woven into the very fabric of their journey. A land flowing with milk and honey awaited them. He turned to the anxious crowd, his voice firm yet filled with compassion. "Do not harden your hearts, O Israel. Remember who brought you out of Egypt and who provides for you even now." As his words melted into the sandy air, they hovered over the people like dawn breaking over the horizon. Would they dare to trust in God's provision amidst their trial, or would their stubborn hearts remain shackled to the memories of Egypt? In that wilderness where hope met despair, uncertainty whispered of a divine purpose yet to unfold. The foundation of their identity, the chosen people of Yahweh, was being carved through these trials. What must happen next for them to step boldly into their destined future? The answer rested in the hands of this weary yet hopeful congregation, still wandering forward on the path set before them. As the multitude gathered around him, an unsettling silence enveloped their hearts. The search for purpose and provision in this barren land had become their collective burden. But in that moment of desperation, the Lord spoke once more to Moses, urging unity in the flock. "Tell the people to sanctify themselves, for tomorrow I will provide them bread from heaven." With trembling hands, Moses conveyed the message to the Israelites. A wave of disbelief washed over them. "Bread from heaven? Is such a thing possible?" they whispered among themselves, confusion overtaking their longing for comfort. Yet, beneath their doubt, the flicker of hope began to shimmer as a promise unfolded. That evening, as shadows stretched across the parched ground, the air became thick with anticipation. They, who had once scoffed at their circumstances, now gathered together with a pinched excitement, their eyes turned toward the sky, seeking a divine revelation. Night fell and stillness blanketed the camp. Would there truly be bread from heaven? At dawn, the sun broke forth, illuminating the landscape as dew lay sparkling across the earth. And behold, when the dew lifted, a fine flake-like substance appeared, white as coriander seed, bringing forth their cries of wonder. "What is it?" they exclaimed, recognizing it as the bread the Lord had promised, manna. The people rushed forth, gathering it, obeying the Lord's command to take only what was sufficient for the day. Moses instructed them, "Let no one gather more than enough for his daily needs, for the Lord has ordained it so." Yet some, driven by greed and fear of scarcity, collected more, leading to worms crawling through what they sought to hoard. The morning sun bore witness to their folly, for the Lord's provision was consistent and timely, meant to teach them reliance upon Him alone. Yet many continued to test the limits of God's mercy, and so God instructed Moses to keep an omer of manna in a jar, a token of His faithfulness throughout generations to come. This would serve as a reminder of His sustaining grace in the wilderness, the bread of life that sustained their very essence. As they journeyed farther into the wilderness, Moses led them into a valley where, eager for answers but still gripped by uncertainty, the people clamored for water once again. "Is the Lord among us or not?" they questioned. The weight of their doubts bore down heavily upon Moses, but he knew that the Lord was with them. God instructed Moses to take the leaders of the congregation and gather at the rock in Horeb, commanding him, "Strike the rock, and water shall flow from it." In obedience, Moses raised his staff and struck the rock, and as he did so, a great fountain of clear, life-giving water erupted. The thirsting souls of Israel rejoiced, drinking from the outpouring of God's provision, a miracle evident to the heart's deepest need. It was here, in the cycle of desperation followed by provision, that the Israelites began to see the hand of God write His covenant promise upon their hearts. They had not only survived, they were beginning to thrive, transformed by the trials they faced. Amidst their wandering, the promise of the promised land glimmered faintly on the horizon, a land flowing with milk and honey, a destiny ordained for those who would trust in Yahweh's faithful provision. Moses, witnessing their metamorphosis, whispered a prayer of thanksgiving, for he understood that the trials would sculpt their character and faith. Yet deeper mysteries awaited them on this journey. What further wonders would the Lord perform, and how would they respond to the continuing call of divine purpose? The unfolding of God's sovereign plan was only beginning. As the days unfolded, the Israelites found themselves enraptured by the daily miracles of manna and the refreshing waters that flowed from the rock. Yet, amidst this divine provision, murmuring still clung to the people like a shadow, gnawing at their faith. They had tasted the goodness of the Lord's miracles, yet their hearts still yearned for the flesh-pots of Egypt, whispering in secret, "Would it not be better for us to return?" Moses, perceiving the discontent brewing within the multitude, gathered them and spoke with a voice heavy with the weight of his role. "Hear me, O sons of Israel. The Lord, your God, has provided for you in your need. The bread of heaven is not merely sustenance. It is a symbol of our covenant, a reminder that He is with us, guiding us to the land He promised." But the people's desires pressed heavily against this truth, their longing for the familiar tangled with the pursuit of the unknown. A restless spirit began to rise, and some even suggested, "Let us appoint a leader to return to Egypt, for our journey here has been fraught with hardship." Moses, overwhelmed, did as the Lord directed and lifted his voice in prayer, crying out, "O Lord, what will you do with this people? They have turned from your ways, and their hearts are set against the path you have laid before them." In that moment, the Lord's response resonated through the stillness. "I will deal with this people according to my purpose. Your intercession has found favor, but they must learn to trust and rely on me." The Lord instructed Moses, Take a census of the people to prepare them for the journey ahead, for I have a destination for them, a land flowing with milk and honey that they must claim." Moses set forth, calling each tribe to assemble. As they stood before him, he recounted the divine acts that had led them out of bondage. He spoke of their deliverance, of the signs and wonders witnessed, and of the covenant made with their forefathers. "Look around," he implored. "See how he has sustained us. Let us not turn back like those who lack faith." The people listened, their hearts torn between fear and the mysterious promise of what lay ahead. Inspired, many began to recognize the hand of God upon their journey. "We will go where you lead us, O Lord," they proclaimed with renewed fervor. Yet, as days turned into weeks, a new trial emerged. For the camp was suddenly attacked by the Amalekites, a fierce adversary seeking to undermine the progress of God's people. The Israelites were taken by fear, crying out to Moses, "Is it to die we have fled from Egypt? Will we be consumed now?" Moses, undeterred, summoned Joshua, saying, "Choose men for us, and go out to fight against the Amalekites. Tomorrow I will stand on the top of the hill with the staff of God in my hand." Under Moses' leadership, the people fought, and as long as his hands were raised, they prevailed. But when weariness overcame him, the tide began to turn. Amid the struggle, Aaron and Hur lifted his arms, joining in the fight by supporting him. Victory belonged to Israel that day, and it was a shadow of the greater battles coming. "The Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation," Moses declared, establishing an altar in remembrance of the Lord's deliverance. This victory unified the people, sparking a deeper resolve to follow the God who fought for them. Hope ignited in their hearts, yet an unsettled question lingered. What further tests awaited them, and would they continue to trust the God who leads them by day and night? As they continued their arduous journey, the Lord prepared transformations in their hearts, ushering them toward a grander destiny, revealing the marvelous depths of His sovereign plan. Yet the echo remained in their midst. What will become of us in this wilderness? The answer lay beyond the horizon, waiting to be revealed. And it came to pass that Moses and the people continued their journey, following the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night. The desert stretched vast and unforgiving before them, yet within their hearts the promise of God turned their fear to courage. The days passed, and with each dawn they gathered manna, the bread from heaven, a constant reminder of the Lord's provision and goodness. As they encamped at Rephidim, the people again drew near to Moses in a spirit of unease. "Give us water, that we may drink," they cried, for their throats were parched and their spirits weary from the dust and sun. Moses spoke to them, saying, "Why do you quarrel with me? Is it the Lord you test?" But the people's discontent flared. "Have you brought us out of Egypt to kill us and our children with thirst?" they exclaimed, their voices rising like the heat of the desert sun. Moses, deeply troubled, turned to the Lord in prayer, saying, "What shall I do with this people? They are almost ready to stone me." The Lord answered him, "Go on before the people and take with you some of the elders of Israel. There holds the staff with which you struck the Nile, and I will stand before you there on the rock at Horeb. You shall strike the rock, and water will come out of it for the people to drink." So Moses did as the Lord commanded, and he gathered the elders and took the staff. He struck the rock, and behold, water gushed forth, flowing streams that quenched the thirst of the people and their livestock. The people marveled, and they knew it was the Lord who provided once more in their hour of need. Then Moses called the place Massa and Meribah, because of the chiding of the children of Israel, and because they tested the Lord, saying, "Is the Lord among us or not?" As they journeyed onward, the Israelites encountered strife, and their hearts continued to wrestle with trust. One day they faced a new threat. A fierce army of Amalekites advanced against them once again with a desire to destroy. The people's hearts trembled, yet the Lord said to Moses, "Write this as a memorial in a book, and rehearse it in the ears of Joshua, for I will utterly blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven." In response, Moses instructed Joshua, "Choose men and go out and fight the Amalekites. Tomorrow I will stand on the top of the hill with the staff of God in my hand." The battle raged fiercely, and as Moses' hands were lifted, Israel prevailed. But when weariness took hold, the enemy began to gain ground. Then Aaron and Hur, seeing the struggle, hurried to raise Moses' hands, lifting them high with steadfast endurance until the sun set. With the help of his faithful brothers, they claimed victory that day. As the dust of battle settled and the people rejoiced in triumph, Moses built an altar and named it Jehovah Nissi, declaring, "For the Lord is my banner. He has fought for us." The people celebrated, but they were also reminded that such victories would not be the end. For the Lord revealed through Moses, "A greater destiny awaits us, a promised land where we will be established as his people." Yet within them remained a holy tension. Would they abandon their doubts and embrace the unfolding purpose of God? As the night enveloped them, the stars shone bright above, a reminder of the promises yet unfulfilled. For what lay ahead was not mere lands of milk and honey, but a deeper communion with the Lord, a covenant destined to shape not just a nation, but all generations to come. And thus the Israelites continued their sacred journey, unaware that the true battle was not against foes of flesh and blood, but for their hearts to be bound to their God. The cry within would echo through time, "What is this plan unfolding before us?" The answer remained veiled, awaiting revelation in the days yet to come. And it came to pass that as the sun rose upon another day in the wilderness, the people of Israel prepared themselves to continue their journey toward the land of their forefathers. Yet amidst their anticipation, the inner tumult persisted, for the shadows of doubt crept into their hearts. "Is it not better that we return to Egypt?" they whispered amongst themselves, longing for the flesh pots and comforts left behind, even as they witnessed the miracles of the Lord. Moses, sensing the weariness of the people, gathered them and spoke with fervor. "Fear not, the Lord has redeemed you with a mighty hand. Do not turn back now, for he will guide us to our promised inheritance." His voice rang with authority, yet he too weighed heavily upon the burdens of leadership. The cries of the people echoed in his mind as he ascended the hill of Sinai to seek the Lord. In that sacred place the Lord called unto Moses, saying, "Come nearer, my servant, for I have a purpose to unfold. Tell the people of Israel to prepare themselves, for on the third day I will come down upon Mount Sinai before all the people in a cloud of glory." Moses returned to the camp, and the air buzzed with a mix of awe and fear. He instructed the people, "Sanctify yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will speak to you." The Israelites washed their garments and prepared their hearts, awaiting the encounter with the Almighty. When the morning dawned, a great thunder and lightning enveloped the mountain, and the sound of a trumpet grew louder and louder, as if heaven itself declared the coming of the Lord. With trepidation, the people stood at the foot of Sinai, trembling. The mountain was wrapped in smoke, for the Lord descended upon it like fire. "Do not approach," the voice of Moses rang out. "Fear the Lord, for he is holy." Yet, amidst the fear, there was a stirring within them, a longing to draw near. The Lord spoke, and the sound thundered like many waters. "I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage." Thus he began to proclaim his commandments, establishing a covenant with his people. Each decree, etched into the very fabric of their identity, would hold them together as a nation under his sovereign rule. The people listened, their hearts stirred with a mixture of fear and reverence. "All that the Lord has spoken, we will do," they answered in one voice, their commitment woven into the covenant. Then the Lord instructed Moses, "I will send my angel before you and prepare the way for you. In the land of milk and honey you shall dwell, and I shall be your God." With this promise Moses' heart soared, yet he sought a deeper assurance. "Show me your glory, O Lord," he implored, yearning for more than the gifts of the covenant, desiring the presence of the giver himself. The Lord replied, I will make all my goodness pass before you, and I will proclaim before you my name, the Lord. But no man can see my face and live. With a holy moment to follow, the Lord hid Moses in the cleft of the rock, covering him with his hand as he passed by. Moses beheld the glory of the Lord from behind, a glimpse of the divine that would sustain him through the trials ahead. As the people witnessed the cloud descend upon the mountain, they marveled at the holiness of God and trembled, feeling the weight of their covenantal promise anew. Thus the journey continued, and with each step they would face trials to test their faith. But lo, the Lord's purpose was unfolding. The question lingered in their hearts. What more does God desire to reveal through this covenant journey? For the tapestry of his plan was still being woven, and a greater destiny awaited them, not just as a nation, but as a people set apart for divine purpose. And it came to pass that as Moses returned from the presence of the Lord, his heart burned within him, for the wonders he beheld were too great to contain. He descended the mountain, holding in his hands the tablets of the covenant, inscribed by the very finger of God, bearing the edicts that would guide the nation of Israel through the wilderness and beyond. As he approached the encampment, he noted the people gathered in confusion, for their faith wavered beneath the burden of their fears. "Moses," they cried as he drew near, "where is this God who has led us from Egypt? Can we trust him?" Their voices reflected a deep unrest, echoing insecurity and longing from the depths of their souls. Moses, with countenance radiant yet solemn, raised his voice to calm their anxiety. "O people, do not be afraid, for the Lord has spoken. He has established his covenant with us." He held the tablets aloft, their surface gleaming in the sunlight. "Let us rejoice, for he has chosen us to be his treasured possession, a holy nation." Yet in their hearts lingered doubt, for some dared to question, "What if the Lord has forsaken us as we wander in this desolate land?" And in this uncertainty a tumult arose, as some turned away from Moses, seeking comfort from the false gods of their Egypt. Seeing this turmoil, Moses was stirred to pray, lifting his voice unto the Lord earnestly. "O God, how shall I lead this people? Show them your ways, for without you we cannot stand." The Lord then spoke gently in his heart, "Lead them into the observance of my laws. Teach them to walk in my ways. For I will be with you, and I will guide you through this wilderness unto the land I have promised." Then the Lord commanded, "Gather the elders of Israel and speak to them these words I have given you. Let them hear the statutes and the judgments that I have revealed, so that they may teach their children and keep my covenant alive." Thus Moses called the elders together, and the people assembled around him in expectation. With fervent trust, he recounted the Lord's covenant and the commands given from atop Sinai. As he shared the words of life, he could see their hearts stir, the flicker of faith rekindling amidst the ashes of fear. "Observe the appointed feasts and keep the Sabbath, for in rest you shall find peace," Moses proclaimed. "Honor your parents, and do not bear false witness. These commands are for your good, that you may dwell in the land with joy." Yet, even as he spoke, a cloud of uncertainty loomed over the people, and a murmur arose. What promise? Is this journey not one of endless wandering? Their voices were intertwined with longing for the security of the past. But within Moses, the spirit of hope glimmered. "Remember your deliverance from Egypt, for the Lord has not brought you here to perish, but to cultivate a people who will glorify his name." As he spoke, the presence of God enveloped the camp, stirring resolve within the hearts of the Israelites. And behold, a revelation came to Moses as he gazed into the heavens. "For the land is before us, flowing with milk and honey, and we shall dwell in safety and abundance." In that moment, Moses perceived that their journey was not merely about reaching the promised land. It was about transforming their very hearts into a people who reflected divine purpose, a people marked by holiness and love. Thus, as the sun set over the encampment, A renewed expectation filled the air. The Israelites ventured forth into faith, stepping away from fear, and in that sacred moment, Moses realized, "The Lord is weaving a story far greater than we can imagine. What marvelous work lies ahead?" And as he knelt in prayer, the question pondered in the silence reverberated throughout the camp. What further wonders does God intend to reveal as we journey together toward our destiny? And it came to pass on the morrow that Moses gathered the people to him, for the Lord had spoken anew. "Hear, O Israel, for the Lord thy God is one. You shall love him with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength." His voice carried the weight of the divine command, yet it was filled with tenderness, for he sought to draw their hearts closer to the Lord. As the words flowed from his lips, the people listened intently, hearts beating in unison, some still wrestling with the remnants of doubt. "These words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. Teach them diligently unto your children, and talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up." Moses saw the glimmer of understanding in the eyes of the elders, and hope flickered brighter among the congregation. "For the Lord desires your hearts, not merely your obedience," he implored. "If you shall obey these commands and keep his statutes, then he shall bless you abundantly." Yet, even amidst this atmosphere of renewed faith, the voice of dissent rose again. What of our needs? Will he feed us? Will he quench our thirst? The skepticism acted as shadows among the glimmering light of faith, prompting Moses to seek refuge in prayer. "O Lord my God, hear the cries of your people, provide for them and affirm your goodness." And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Behold, I have gathered the dew of heaven and the bread of angels to provide for my people. They shall not want. I will satisfy their needs according to my riches in glory." With renewed strength, Moses returned to the people, declaring the promise of the Lord. "Gather your hearts in faith, for tomorrow morning you shall find bread upon the ground." The camp buzzed with anticipation and trepidation, questions lingering as the sun began to set. What is this bread? Will it sustain us? Yet each tent was filled with eager hearts longing for the divine provision that had been pledged. As the night deepened, Moses, seeking communion with the Lord, climbed once again to the summit of Sinai, where the presence of God surrounded him. The Lord spoke with clarity. "Write these words, for they are the foundation of all that I will do among you." The tablets would not only carry commandments, but etched upon them would be the essence of his covenant, a framework of love, grace, and righteous living. Moses inscribed not only the laws, but also the vision of a community unified in grace, a people who would reflect God's light to the nations round about. With each stroke of the stone, a purpose unfolded, tying past deliverance with future promise, echoing what was meant to be a legacy of hope. As he descended the mountain once more, the dawn began to break over the horizon. The joy of renewed faith glimmered in the faces of the congregation. "Tomorrow we shall partake of the Lord's bounty," he proclaimed, inflating hope among them as the light filled the camp. But suddenly a weighty silence fell, for among those gathered stood a figure shrouded in doubt. "Is this truly the providence of our God, or mere coincidence?" they questioned as uncertainty darkened their hearts once again. Moses paused, sensing the lingering doubt. "The Lord is not a man that he should lie, nor a son of man that he should repent. What he has promised, he shall fulfill." With that, the heavens bore witness, as the first rays of the sun illuminated the land, laden with dew. When the people awoke and beheld the fine flakes upon the ground, they cried out, "Manna!" And Moses declared, "This is the bread which the Lord has given you to eat." Thus they gathered the provision, marveling at the Lord's faithfulness. In that moment they stood upon the precipice of a holy revelation, their hearts swelling, and Moses, gazing upon the wonder of God's provision, understood. Through this bread of heaven, the Lord is preparing us not just for sustenance, but for a journey into his eternal destiny, a covenant unfolding beyond our sight, rich with his glory. As day unfolded into promise, Moses beckoned them. Could this be but the beginning of a greater story, one where our hearts are transformed through his goodness? What further wonders does he hold for us in the journey ahead? And it came to pass, as the morning sun cast golden rays upon the camp, the people gathered at Moses' call, filled with wonder at the sight of the miraculous bread. Each one approached with awe, taking their portion, and gratitude surged in their hearts, for the Lord had met their needs. "Is this not the hand of God?" they whispered amongst themselves, their faith rekindled. Moses stood before them, observing the unity that began to form among the tribes, and he felt a surge of hope. Brothers and sisters, this manna is not just for our sustenance. It is a sign, a sacred reminder of his covenant love. Gather it each morning and do not hoard it, for the Lord shall provide anew every day. His voice resonated through the crowd, igniting their spirits. Yet, amongst the throng, murmurs of concern surfaced. "What shall we do when the Sabbath arrives? How shall we rest if the bread must be gathered daily?" They glanced at one another, uncertainty intertwining with the sweetness of faith like the morning dew. Moses raised his hands, calling for silence. "Fear not, for the Lord has commanded us a day of rest, a holy Sabbath unto him. On the 6th day, gather twice as much, that on the 7th you may cease from your labor and reflect upon his goodness. This day shall be blessed and set apart." As Moses spoke, the hearts of the people stirred, for they longed for a deeper communion with their God, one that transcended mere physical sustenance. And so they heeded this divine counsel, gathering their portions diligently, anticipating the day when they would enter into the rest of the Lord. Days passed, and with each rising sun, the people encountered not just the bread from heaven, but God's presence woven intricately through their lives. They began to understand the significance of the manna, not solely as food, but as a symbol of divine provision and an invitation into relationship. In the evening of the 6th day, Moses demonstrated their new rhythm, leading them in a sacred gathering. "Let us remember from whence we came. The Lord delivered us from bondage in Egypt, and he shall remain our guide. Tomorrow let us rest and worship, acknowledging his wondrous acts among us." On that day, as they prepared for the Sabbath, silence enveloped the camp. Families came together, sharing stories of deliverance. Children listened wide-eyed, captivated by the recounting of God's faithfulness. As Moses retired to commune with the Lord once more, he marveled at the transformation in the hearts of the people. A divine stillness enveloped him upon the mountain, and God spoke once more. "I shall teach you my ways, for you are a chosen people. Your hearts shall be my dwelling place, and your obedience shall be a light unto the nations." Upon descending the mountain, the sun set in vibrant hues, casting long shadows over the camp. Moses approached the people, his face aglow with the radiance of God's presence. "The Lord has spoken of a great future for us, one filled with promise and hope. This journey shall be one of discovery, of who we are called to be as a nation and as his beloved." Yet, even as joy stirred among them, a question lingered in the hearts of the assembly. What path shall we walk? How can we truly follow him in this wilderness? Moses looked upon their faces, filled with anticipation and doubt intermingled. "Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your understanding. This is but the beginning of his glorious plan for us, a journey that shall mold us and reveal his purpose." And the people nodded, their faith ignited once more by the words of their leader. As the shadows of the day lengthened, they gathered under the stars, ready to rest in the assurance that the Lord's plan was unfolding, and the best was yet to come. For in the quiet of that night, unseen by human eyes, the tapestry of God's sovereign purpose continued to weave, drawing them toward a destiny far greater than they could envision, a land of promise where they would flourish and reflect his glory. What now did the Lord have in store for his people? A revelation awaited them, a holy unfolding as deep as the night sky, beckoning them into a future filled with divine mystery. And it came to pass that on the morrow the people rose early, eager to gather the provision that the Lord had bestowed upon them. The sun peeked over the horizon, bathing the camp in a warm light, yet the hearts of the people were not merely focused on the manna, but filled with a longing for further revelation. They asked amongst themselves, "What shall God show us today?" As the last of the manna was gathered, Moses stepped forth, his voice ringing like a clarion. "Hear me, O Israel. The Lord has commanded us to gather not just for our hunger, but to prepare our hearts for the covenant he shall establish with us." The crowd surged with questions, anticipation sparking in their eyes. What covenant? What signs would they witness? Moses continued, "For 3 days we shall prepare ourselves, for on the 3rd day the Lord will come down upon the mountain in sight of all the people. Consecrate yourselves, wash your garments, and be ready." The people nodded, some gasping in awe at the majesty of what was promised. Hearts pounded with excitement. God was going to meet them, to enter into a deeper relationship. In the days that followed, the camp bustled with activity as families cleaned their tents, children played, yet asked poignant questions, and elders spoke of the great acts of God. Moses climbed the mountain to seek further guidance, a sacred urgency compelling him. The Lord called him higher, enveloping him in a cloud of glory as he spoke of holiness. "Say unto the children of Israel," the Lord commanded, "if they shall obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine." With awe, Moses relayed these words to the people. "You are called to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation." The people trembled at this high calling, their identity shifting from mere wanderers to a chosen people set apart by divine decree. As the time of revelation drew nearer, the camp was infused with both excitement and fear. They gathered at the foot of the mountain, the solemnity of the moment washing over them. Lightning flashed, thunder rumbled, and the earth quaked, encapsulating them in an atmosphere steeped in the presence of God. "Do not approach the mountain," Moses warned, "for the Lord descends upon it in fire. Consecrate yourselves and stand back, for his holiness must not be approached lightly." The people stood together, straining to see the cloud enveloping the peak. God was near, and the air quivered with sacred anticipation. Suddenly, a trumpet blared, and as the sound reverberated, the mountain became a spectacle of his glory, a divine manifestation. The people shielded their eyes from the brightness, their hearts swelling with wonder and dread. Moses, emboldened by God's previous assurances, stepped forward. "Lord, speak to your people. Let them hear and understand your commandments." And in that moment, the heavens roared, and amidst the thunderous voice of God, the first of his commandments echoed forth. "I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage." As the words resounded in the hearts of the Israelites, a holy fear fell upon them, for they were being given sacred instruction, the very foundations of their identity. Yet within the depths of this extraordinary encounter, a question loomed amongst them. How shall we live out this holiness? What does it mean to be God's chosen? As they wrestled with understanding their new identity and responsibilities, a profound truth began to unfold, revealing the essence of their calling. This divine engagement was the beginning of a journey toward transformation, not merely as a people, but as vessels of his presence. The Lord had much yet to impart, as they stood on the threshold of a new reality, inching closer to the promise that awaited them. The day would soon come when their understanding would deepen, and his purpose for them would illuminate the path ahead. And thus, within the thunder and the light, the mystery of God's plan continued to weave itself into their hearts, whispering quietly, "But what you do not yet know of my ways will soon be revealed." And it came to pass that the Israelites, enveloped in the thunderous voice of God, stood in awe of their Creator, trembling before his majesty. For every commandment he spoke was a divine unveiling of his heart, designed not to restrict them, but to guide them into a flourishing destiny. "Thou shalt have no other gods before me," resonated in their ears, a call to fidelity. "Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image," was a reminder to guard their hearts against the allure of the past. Moses, descending from the mount, carried the weight of the glory of God upon him, his face radiant and shining as the sun. The people beheld this wonder and fell upon their faces, for they understood the Lord was indeed with them, fashioning a people of purpose through his sacred covenant. "Fear not, for the Lord has come near to proclaim his way," Moses reassured them, feeling the urgency of their acceptance resound. "These words are life. They are the foundation upon which we shall build our identity as the chosen." A murmur of compliance rippled through the multitude as hearts stirred, recalling the chains of Egypt and longing for the freedom promised by their God. Yet shadows still lurked within some hearts. Fears of inadequacy and doubt whispered ancient lies. As they gathered around Moses, he implored, "Remember how the Lord delivered us from bondage and sustained us in the wilderness. He has drawn us to himself, to establish us as his treasured possession. Embrace this covenant, for it shall guide us to a land flowing with milk and honey." With those words, the people united in a chorus of affirmation. "All the words which the Lord has said will we do," they proclaimed, casting aside doubt for a moment, their declaration echoing against the mount. The weight of their commitment hung in the air, each heartbeat a step toward embracing their destiny. Days turned into weeks, and as they journeyed through the wilderness, challenges arose, battles with hostile nations, doubts in the face of scarcity, and internal discord among the tribes. Yet, through each trial, the Lord's faithfulness remained evident, granting victories and providing sustenance. "The Lord is my banner," Moses cried in remembrance of their victories, and the people learned to see the hand of God woven through their trials and tribulations. And so it was that after months of wandering, they stood at the edge of the promised land. The people, emboldened by the faith cultivated through hardships and miracles, trained their eyes towards Jericho, a fortified city that loomed before them. "How shall we conquer this land?" they murmured, minds flooded with fear and uncertainty. Moses, reflecting on the covenant with heaven, felt the Spirit of the Lord stir within him. "We shall march, not in our own strength, but with the power of the Almighty," he declared. "And on the seventh day we shall encompass the city with worship, for walls will crumble before the praises of the Lord." As they took their first step into the unknown, they followed the Ark of the Covenant, a symbol of God's presence among them. With each blow of the trumpets on the seventh day, they shouted the praises of God, and, as promised, the walls of Jericho fell, their fears eclipsed by the overwhelming faith that the Lord had instilled in their hearts. From this day forward, the Israelites embraced their identity as God's chosen people, carrying not just their physical provisions, but the spirit of his law woven into their beings. They learned that the journey, a tapestry of trials and triumphs, was a covenant of love, cultivating their hearts in holiness. In time, their story of redemption and reliance on God became a testimony for generations to come, a legacy that echoed the heart of God's plan, revealing divine whispers of hope and an everlasting promise. The land of milk and honey unfolded before them, not merely as a destination, but as a journey steeped in purpose, where they would thrive as a nation, marked by the divine presence of Yahweh. And so they did, fulfilling the calling upon them, a people set apart, redeemed and renewed, a testament to God's faithfulness, his perfect love, and the beautiful unfolding of his promises across time. I invite you to embrace your own divine purpose today. Subscribe immediately to this channel to not miss the next powerful biblical stories that will inspire your faith. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through the algorithm, allowing his truth to resonate in the hearts of many. Comment your spiritual reflections and how this biblical story impacted your walk with Christ. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. Together, let us illuminate the world with the light of his word.